So I call this a mix and match stuffed squash. And the idea behind a mix and match recipe is that it allows you to use whatever ingredients you want, whether it be because it's what you have in your pantry or it's what you prefer to eat. Okay, so what I'll do is just quickly show you how to assemble this. Now you're going to first start with a nice winter squash. So I happen to have butternut squash on hand. And the way I prep my winter squash, because it's so tough, I don't have the strength and the sharpest knife in the world, that I like to put it in the microwave first, and this will soften the squash. So what I do is I scrub the outside very well, and then I poke it with either a knife or a fork to vent it, because I'm going to put this in the microwave for about 8 minutes, and I'm going to flip it halfway on its side. So this is taken out of the microwave after I've had it cooked. And you could, if you wanted to, finish this off in the oven. So you can roast this more if you wanted to caramelize the winter squash further. So I scooped out the seeds, and I even saved the seeds because I'm going to roast them later as well. So inside this butternut squash, we're going to stuff it. And we're going to stuff it with some nutrient-dense ingredients. Now, if you don't like butternut squash, you could use something like acorn squash, which I happen to have here as well. You could use delicata squash, or you could even use something like sweet potato for this. And that would be nice and easy to do too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take advantage of some pre-cooked ingredients, and I'm going to explain that as I go along. But what we're going to do in my saute pan, I have to shift the camera a little bit so you can see. All right, in my saute pan, which I have warming up, it's been warming up this whole time, I drizzled some olive oil. And what are we going to start with that's good for the gut? We got to go with our aromatics, right? So I have some onions and I have some garlic, and I'm going to heat them up in here. Remember, the prebiotics are in onions, right? Onions and garlic. Not only are they delicious, this already smells amazing, but they are nutritious as well. So we're going to pop them in, and we're just going to heat them through. We want the onions to become translucent. And I used a good quality olive oil in here too to start. And then I'm going to add to this, after the onions are translucent, I'm going to add to it a really convenient product, some baby greens. So I almost always have baby spinach in the fridge because it's a way to add nutrient density to a meal, right? We're just going to pop a couple of handfuls in there, and we've already added some nutrition. And then I'm going to add to that some beans or lentils, and then some whole grains. Now, what I like to do is take advantage again of convenient foods or foods that I've already pre-prepped, right? So let's say I cooked some farro last night. I could cook extra and use it in this recipe today. All I would have to do is take it out of the fridge. It's already cooked. So now I just have to heat it up in the pan. I could use canned beans, right? Or if I had some dried beans and I cooked a batch, I could freeze my dried beans, again, using them as another meal option later in the week. So I happen to have some lentils in the freezer, and that's what I'm going to use. So this is working through. Smells delicious. I wish you were here with me. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a couple handfuls of my baby spinach. If you wanted to use another green in here, you certainly could. And you could add as much as you want, right? Because we know that this is going to cook down. And then, or you could use baby arugula if you wanted to. You could use other cut up vegetables if you wanted to here. The idea is it's mix and match. So you get to decide what you might like. So we're just going to let that cook down. I'm going to add a little salt to the pan too. I forgot to do that initially. I'm going to have enough for me and maybe Savina if she wants some. So we're going to let them cook, and then I'm going to add, so these are already cooked. I have some wheat berries, right? They're just left over from last night. So all I'm doing is just heating them up. That's it. And it's about a cup. You'll see the exact recipe. And then my lentils, again, I pre-cooked these and then I froze them. So that way, a month later, if I wanted to use them in a demonstration, I could just take them out of the freezer the night before, thaw them out, and they're already cooked. So I'm just reheating them essentially. So this is a great example of a plant-based recipe. And it smells great. Now to this, we're gonna add a little more, this has got a lot of texture to it, I think, but we're gonna add a little more interest in terms of color, flavor, and texture. So what I'd like to add to this are some dried fruit, you get to decide, and then some nuts or seeds. Again, you get to decide. So I have a lot of options here in the center. I have some figs. I also have some dried blueberries. I have some apricots. You could use raisins. I also happen to have goji berries, very high in vitamin C, and I'm going to use them tonight. I soaked my goji berries in water because they're pretty tough. So to loosen and soften them up, I soak them in water ahead of time. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon or two of our goji berries. And I think this is already making kind of a festive meal. Lots of bright color here. And then I decided for my nuts of choice to go with walnuts. And I think walnuts are like underrated. I mean, I think they're delicious, right? But walnuts, I think, are phenomenal. And I use that word specifically because they have something called phenolic acids. And phenolic acids help to lower our blood sugar. So they help control our insulin response. And they also have been shown to help feed the beneficial bacteria in our gut. So it's almost like these little guys are creating this environment that's not conducive to carcinogenesis. So we're going to intentionally go with that tonight. But if you wanted to, you could use really any nut or seed that you wanted. You could use pecans. All right, so I have them here. I have pumpkin seeds here. You could use sunflower seeds. You could use almonds. I mean, the options are really endless based upon what it is that you prefer. Now, you could also use hemp seeds if you're looking to add more plant protein to your diet. That would be a great option as well. So this is just heating through, and it's basically done. So I'm going to take it off the heat now. And hopefully you can see a little bit. It smells delicious. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to dress this. I'm going to put it into my butternut squash cup, and then I'm going to dress it. So I want to show you how I'm going to make a very simple dressing. And again, this is great if you are looking to save time in the kitchen, if you're struggling with fatigue. You know, all of this is like an energy conserving type of approach. So I took store-bought hummus. It's such a versatile ingredient. So just good old plain hummus. You can get a flavored brand if you'd like. And what I do is I just took a couple tablespoons. It's actually a little bit more than that. It's probably 4 tablespoons. And then I juiced about a half of a lemon. And I'm just going to whisk that together. And I've made a nice little sauce or dressing to go on top of this. So we're just going to whisk that through. And you could add water to this if you wanted to make this more thin. You could, as I mentioned, use a different type of hummus flavor if you wanted to try something different in terms of flavor. So that's a little thin, I mean a little thick, but I'm going to be okay with that. So I'm going to take now my butternut squash cups that I've hollowed out, and I'm going to fill it with my saute pan mix. And this is how we're going to serve it, just like that. And this could serve as a meal or a side dish. I'm going to take some of those onions out. And then I'm just going to drizzle some of this sauce right on top so that you can see. And we have, now you could taste this if you want to add some salt and pepper to it. If you're not happy with the flavor, it probably will need a little salt and pepper, so I'm going to give that a try after. But I'm going to move this over so that I can show you the finished product. I'm going to bring it on over. Voila.